Boom! See the tier list?
I see the tier list.
Fantabulistic.
I see the ads next to the tier list. Get an ad blocker. You
No,
block Origin.
I don't need one, dude. I just when I put it in Blender, I just crop it the whole thing out. So all you
Enter
see is the
code
tier list.
Ulhan Gaming to get a discount on your uBlock Origin.
I'm actually glad I
And
hit record
50
early,
free
so I'm
gems.
catching all of this.
And 50 free gems. And an extra champion in Raid Shadow Legends.
Hello, gentles and ladymen. I'm Ulan the Bison. I am joined by my partner, Mr. President. What's up?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all having an A+ week.
Yeah, sure. And today we bring you the April Fool's tier list that I hinted at. It is the house tier list. Ha 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 ha. Yay. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit more unenthusiastic than normal. I just woke up. I literally just woke up.
Did just wake up.
Yes.
I heard the alarm. It was ringing for like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
I was wondering what was taking you so long.
He stayed in a call for like the 7 hours that I slept the whole time, just so that he could carefully listen to my alarm, and then I slept through it.
That's okay. That's okay, folks. I've done exhaustive research. I know exactly where to place all these buildings. You can trust me.
I have done less research than normal, than I usually do when it comes to these tier lists. So, for reference, I usually, whenever we're about to do a tier list, I usually go into the game and review like shipments that are related to whatever we're tier listing, and just go through the civilizations. And sometimes I miss stuff still. Like I'm like, oh yeah, that civ doesn't have anything. I just skip them, and then I turn out to be wrong.
Right.
Like I think my most recent example was I apparently Russia has a card that halves the coin cost of mortars.
Yeah.
I had no
Russia
idea.
has
I had no
Russia
idea
has like
until I
better
read a
mortar.
comment.
I think it was like generally a mortar combat card until definitive edition, but yeah, it reduces the coin cost of mortars.
Yeah, I normally do a lot of research going into this, but it's houses, and I feel like I know houses pretty well.
Yeah. But I'll chime in if I think you're missing anything really niche or just fun little facts.
Okay, got it. And with that, let's get into it, shall we? Where do you think is a good place to start?
Well, they're in alphabetical order. You'll notice Aztecs.
Yeah, I see that.
In the beginning, then British, Chinese, Dutch.
Where do you think is a good thematic place to start?
Oh, let's start with the order the civs were added into the game. Let's start with
the Europeans first,
and then the Native Americans, then the Asians, then the Africans, then I guess more Europeans and stuff.
Okay, I was about to make a joke. I was about to make a joke about how everybody but Europeans come last, but then the Europeans came last. So,
right.
Fuck! This game is so unracist. I can't make jokes about it. Mm-hmm. Also, right, April Fools, everybody.
April Fools, everybody. Now, where do you think these houses belong?
Let's see. I see. I love the tier list. I just noticed this. So, Prez made this whole tier list for me.
You're welcome.
This is one of the few where like I didn't make the list myself. This whole thing was his idea, and I just loved the idea. So our tiers here are not S, A, B, C, and D. We have mansion, homestead, bungalow, cottage, and shack. All right. So we are, of course, tier listing the houses based on their effectiveness, and overall necessity and efficiency in a civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a really good example of this is none other than the British house, which obviously has to go in mansion.
Yeah, I agree with this. It of course costs more, but I mean you're getting a villager every time. So you're basically getting a villager. You're not paying more for the house. You're paying more for the villager. But in addition to that, there are really a lot of things that do make the house special beyond that. But generally you're just going to want the extra villager.
It's really, really hard to beat just 140 wood for a house and a villager. That's such a good fucking combo.
Mm-hmm.
It's
This
not to mention when you get to age 4, there is a very rarely, but still possibly used card called that allows your houses to train settlers.
That's
So
called terraced houses. I know what you're talking about. I did
yeah,
research.
so
Did you know?
you know
Fun fact with
if
terraced houses,
that's kind of the
if
thing where it's like
you
it's age 4 and you're not at 99 settlers yet. Fix that.
just send it over, exactly, and you don't even need to have like more town centers. You can just basically use the terraced houses as town centers,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And fun fact, if you send terraced houses, and I want to know if you knew this, if you revolt, you can train revolutionaries from your houses. Did you know that?
Really, I actually didn't know that
You
because
you can.
I
Doesn't matter
relate
whether you
that.
go USA or Egypt or South Africa, your houses, your manors will now be able to train revolutionaries.
That's actually super cool. I would have
Yeah.
never guessed that because I actually learned about the existence of that card through the existence of the British Immigrants card for America.
Hmm. Which
Uh,
is very similar.
which is very similar, except that I specifically put the British Immigrants card in my America deck for a revolt scenario where I revolt and then immediately get back up to 100 settlers just by using the houses.
Yeah.
Because that's how
Uh,
that works with USA. It doesn't train revolutionaries.
yeah, and again with the revolutions, the manor houses, if you send villagers card for the revolution, you can just train all your villagers back. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Now, granted, there's not very many opportunities when Brits are going to want to use that card, but the few situations where it's useful, it's hella useful,
Yeah.
And
They can also heal if you send a card, but I don't think anyone uses that. No, you want the settler, and they have some niche use in a revolution.
and
So
they're a little bit tankier than our own house at 1800 HP.
that's true. And also, another
They
small fun
they
fact:
can't
you
be
cannot delete
p-tarted.
them.
Yeah, you can't delete them. They cannot be p-tarted like other houses can.
Hmm.
In fact, there are only 2 houses. There are only 3 houses in the game that cannot be killed in one hit by a p-tard, if I'm not mistaken, and that's one of
And
them.
the others.
Village for China and Concha houses.
All right. You want to move on to the China house then?
Well, no,
Is that a good? I
I
mean,
thought
it's
we
a
were gonna
good
do Europe.
segue.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good segue. I thought we were gonna do European, but yeah, let's just do natural segues.
Yeah, village is very good.
Village is
Livestock.
yeah, it's livestock. Yeah, like you said, it's livestock. It counts more villagers at once. It also can receive shipments. I'm pretty sure, and
It can,
it can garrison settlers as well.
which is really valuable in a game where you can get raided really early. It also trains militia. Uh, and depending on the tech level you're at, all the Chinese village techs do the same thing. They add like an extra 5 population and an
Yeah,
extra 10% hit points. So at max upgrade, a village can support 40 population, which is just incredible.
there's one thing that I don't like about villages though, and that's that because they have such a small build limit because it doesn't take very many of them to hit the point where once you fully upgrade you're at max population,
Mhm.
and as such it's really easy to overpop a China player just by burning a couple houses.
That's true.
And like the villages are a blessing in it have in that they have all of these amazing mechanics, but they also create like single point like fail of points where they are high priority targets for somebody to blow up, which kind of sucks.
And they can do a million different things, but that doesn't mean you're going to basically be doing all of those things.
Yeah.
If your whole like you could literally, I think there's so many cards in the Chinese player deck that like applies to villages. You could literally have like half your deck just filled with village stuff.
Yeah.
But if you send all that village stuff, it's like it's not going to matter. You know what I mean?
They have a lot of like spawn a goat for each village and stuff
Spawn
like
a
that.
villager for each village.
Yeah.
There's so much like look at this. Western refugees. Each village and town center spawns a villager. Northern refugees, same thing, except in age 1 instead of age 3.
Like
Then the Great Migration was a villager and a fattened goat for each village. That's really good.
Mechanically, they are obviously way superior to the British house, but because of the fail-safe points that they provide, that exists, because the fail point that exists where if like the enemy just hits like two villages, you're fucked until you build them back up. I'm going to have to put them in the homestead rather than the mansion.
Yeah, I think they're just under mansion tier as well. Very good, but they're missing. They're not missing a few things. It's just they become a little bit, I don't know, too vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I take it back. There's four houses that cannot be petarded.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
What's the fourth?
Lakota, because they don't have houses to petard.
Well, I do have the TP in there. I mean, it's technically
TP's not
their
a
house replacement.
TP's
Oh, you don't want to put that on there?
No, it's not.
I think it's a house.
It's
a house replacement.
This is to represent
right?
Lakota. It's not a house. It doesn't have anything to do with population. It's just an aura
Okay.
booster.
Okay. Let us know in the comments below. Let us know in the comments below if you think a TP is a house. I think it is a house.
It's not a house.
It's clearly supposed to be the house replacement. It's for goodness sake, it replaces the house in the whole button build menu for the villager.
That doesn't mean shit. It doesn't. It's not intended
it means
to provide
something.
Population.
All right, fine. Whatever you want.
All right, let's talk about the Kancha house. One of the food generation houses. Kancha houses are awesome. And I fucking love these guys. They're as big as villages, but they don't suffer from the pathetic village build limit and have more HP, I think. Well, they have 2,000 at base. I'm not sure how much a village has. Villages might have more, actually.
I think they have more when they're fully upgraded.
Yeah, they probably have more when they're fully
upgraded. But the Kancha houses have a lot of building HP upgrades. The Incans just in general have a lot. Yeah. Monumental architecture gives 45% extra HP to all the Incan buildings.
Now, there's a thing that a lot of noob players will do with some of the Euro civs where they'll just like try to make a wall with their houses, which is, really cool, except that, your army has to walk around the damn wall too. And it also puts, like, your houses right up front and center for your opponent to burn down and house you out, which is an issue. You kind of want to spread your houses out a lot more or put them in the back of your base, I generally find. The exception is Inca, because Inca houses are so tanky, for one, and for two, they are like 4 times the size of a normal house, so you can actually and effectively block off areas with Kancha houses, and leave little gaps out for your army to walk through. And it's like Kancha houses are stronger than walls. They have 500 more HP than walls. It's great.
I really like Kancha houses. So here is the big negative for the Kancha house. You know how Native Americans get big button techs? I think this big button tech for the Kancha house is the worst big button tech in the entire game.
It used to be so good, too.
It used to be so good, and then they like hyper nerfed it. So now it's 300 food, 300 wood, and 300 coin for 4 villagers.
Yeah, it's 900 resources for 4 villagers.
I mean, I guess you get them all at once, so maybe there's something to say for that.
There's not.
you can send old ways as Native Americans for like all those civs, including the Incans. So then I guess it would be,
the thing is,
4 villagers for 450 resources, which
if it is a big button tech, which means I'm guessing that it ignores build limits. So when you get to 99 vills, maybe you can get to 103 with it.
Nah, but even with the old ways, you're not sending old ways so you can get the 4 villagers thing. This is the most offensively bad tech. Worst really cost tech in the game.
It really is.
It's offensive to like even look at it. So you click on the house and you see it and you're like, ugh, and you just feel disgust seeing it. I can't put this any higher than a Chinese village. I think it would be just behind a Chinese village.
Yeah, I agree that it's in the area, but there's a couple more things I want to talk about. We haven't even mentioned the food trickle.
Of
Yeah,
course.
Kancha houses have food trickles, and they have some good upgrades to it too. They go from 0.6 to 0.9 per second with the
Hmm.
with the Chincha brewing, and even better, they and even better, they get an upgrade in age 3 that allows them to toggle between food and wood. And 0.9 wood per second per house is fucking ludicrous. Like,
Yeah, with a
you get
total of
so much.
build limit,
You never have to chop again, and you have so much more wood than you ever know what to do with.
that would be about 12 wood a second, which I think is like 12 fully upgraded villagers on wood,
That
basically.
that's yeah, that's insane. It's
Yeah.
just insane. Yeah, like if you ship the wood card and change your brewing, like your wood economy is just unbelievable. You don't need any settlers on wood. You can even take your llama off of wood.
Hmm.
So,
And
but I
one
do
last,
agree that they should go into
yeah.
the homestead.
Also, they can train Peruvian dogs in age 4, although I don't know why you'd want to do that in age 4.
Yeah,
Seems like a waste of food.
I'm kind of
But
tempted
if you're already popped out, I guess it's like fine.
I'm kind of tempted to put them higher than the Chinese village, but that's just because I play Inca.
Yeah, the only thing I would put it under Homestead though is because of that offensive big button tech. I hate that thing. I hate seeing it now. I
Yeah,
like
and these
honestly
things
just
can
remove it from
also
the game.
these things
Or
can also receive shipments, and that's huge.
yeah, the shipments is makes them a lot better. I agree.
All right, let's talk about the last one that can't be petarded. The Lakota the Lakota lack of houses.
Oh yeah, the TP, of
No,
course.
it's not the TP, it's the lack of houses.
All right, I guess you can talk about that. I mean, technically, it's the cheapest house in the game at
Yeah,
50 wood,
there's
so that's good. And hey,
there's it's
all the
not
villagers will
it's
gain a
not a
12.5%
house.
gather rate.
We're
Yeah,
not
it's really
talking
good though.
about the TP.
Okay. We'll talk about the lack of houses represented by the TP.
Yes,
Represented.
exactly. That's what
Yeah.
I thought. That's what I thought you included it in the first place. Actually,
All right.
I can't see anywhere for this to be other than the absolute mansion S tier, which is ironic considering that there's no mansions. But like, are you kidding me? I don't have to spend a single wood to hit 200 population. Like, yeah, S tier.
Technically, you don't have to build TPs at all
Yeah,
if you don't want to. But you kind of do want to for the. I mean, it's a 12.5% gather rate boost. That's really good. Also, I think this is the only house in the game that can be built by your infantry. Oh, I'm talking about the TPs though. You're talking about the lack of housing.
we can talk about the TPs a little bit. It's fine. Just know that it has no relation on the tier list.
All right. You're talking about the lack of houses. But I mean, I agree. That's a bonus. Not needing to build houses is a house bonus. I mean, it's just like the Huns in Age of Empires too.
Yeah, exactly.
And no, I researched the TP so much for this talking point. I can't think of anything else. Arsenal techs. You can make their aura. You can make their aura.
I rolled over your whole thing. That's so funny. All right, go ahead and nerd out about the TPs. Go ahead.
Technically, you can even boost their hit points with Town Ceremony. You probably don't want to do that. But
oh, that's so funny. I apologize.
No. I mean, hey, there's not much to speak about, I guess.
Okay, that's good. I feel better now. All right, let's do a normal house for once, eh?
Well, what would you consider a normal house?
Yeah, just one of the normal European houses. Let's pick one.
Ottomans.
Ottomans. Shack.
They get stonemasons, gaslighting, and improved buildings, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, they're always going to need houses. There's really not much
Everyone needs houses.
Yeah,
there is literally nothing to say about Ottoman houses.
There's nothing to say about Ottoman houses. They're so incredibly unspecial.
I'll tell you something that's even less special though: the Maltese house, which might be technically worse, and I can explain why that is.
Okay,
so
go ahead and give your opinion.
Ottomans get stonemasons, gaslighting, and improved buildings for their house upgrades as cards, but the Maltese improved buildings is a team extra hit points card. So technically, that's less HP for their house.
It is.
So technically, I would say Malta has the worst house in the game.
I would disagree with that.
No kidding.
And the reason is because commanderies provide population.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about
you can send
the whole civilization housing situation.
That's what I.
And that's a fairly popular card. Yeah, I agree.
The Auberg's card allows the commanderies to provide population. It's a relatively common send for any kind of order unit build order. And it's a relatively common shipment. It's not the rarest thing in the world, although it's not the most common either. And so as such, it saves you a little bit of wood when you're trying to get to your 200 population with houses, and I think that should be recognized.
All right, I can respect that. I was looking at the house itself, but if you're including the commandery, I can see it.
It's just like all my tier lists. I'm trying to keep in as many factors as possible in the overall population.
All right, yeah. Maybe you could put it in cottage tier, though. I don't think it would
it's not bungalow, but I'll put it in cottage.
Oh, definitely not a bungalow.
Yeah, it ain't no bungalow. It's the weirdest thing I've ever said. All right, let's see. New house. What should we talk about next?
Aztecs, because I like the way it looks in the picture.
Yes, Aztecs. They have cool. Aztecs have like the coolest fucking house models. They start out with like these shacks with the matted roofs, and then they kind of turn in as you age up. They kind of turn into like these almost Minecraft looking buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I love them.
Aztecs don't really have any way to circumvent population, but they also don't really. They have exactly one like 2-pop unit that you can buy with resources. It's the Arrow Knight in Age 3, not counting the Skull Knight, because you're not going to be able to train those really. And so you really like one house gets you a lot with Aztec, because you never really have to bother with too many 2-pop units, but they also don't get anything particularly special out of them. So I'm just.
They have a big button tech that gives them Masse Qualtines depending on how long the game is going.
Oh, I forgot about that. Thank you.
Gotta remember the big button text.
Gotta remember the big button text. Yeah, that's enough to put it into cottage, I'd say.
You think it's worse than Malta though? I think it's better than Malta.
That's fair. Yeah, that's absolutely fair.
You get Masse Qualtines with the Aztec house.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Okay. Let's do the African houses. These guys rock.
I think so too.
African houses, they're like they're just normal houses functionally, except that they can get the levied bowmen and spearmen.
Yeah, and it's only limited by the amount of influence you have. So like Europeans, they call like one thing of levies once from their town center, and then it's it, unless you've sent like a card or something.
Whereas
with Africans, technically you could have infinite militia if you want, which is really good.
Make
to
a militia army. I think they even have cards that upgrade their militia too.
They have a lot of cards that upgrade the militia, but that's a little stretch beyond the house itself. I would just grade them for their ability to spawn as many militia as you want on demand, which I think is like the most unique thing about their houses.
Yeah, I agree. Shall we put them in bungalow status?
I agree. Let's see. The house, its build speed can be increased by university, and also it can actually generate influence if you use the House of Age Up and research Bayajida Epic at the university. So I would put the House above the Ethiopian house, because you get influence when you build. Yeah. So you basically get the influence you need to get the levies that you can call, which I think is really cool.
What would you think about putting the Aztec house in bungalow status as well? For
I agree. I would put it under the African houses, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Is my stream not working properly?
I see it.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Cool. Okay, I was just making sure. All right.
You're good.
Cool. Because like I put it under the African houses, and then you're like, just make sure you put it under the African houses. I'm like, I already did.
Well, it takes a second.
Gotcha. I see. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about a bland house really quick. Just to
Portugal.
Yeah, Portugal. There we go. Shack. They've got nothing special to do with their houses. The one bonus I will say, and I will put them above the Ottomans, is they save 100 wood every age because you get a free town center wagon, and
Yeah, I agree.
that's
I would put it above Ottomans. Maybe the same as Malta. We'll see as like we develop this tier list, but I don't know if I'd put them above Malta. Maybe about the same as Malta.
That's
Up
true.
to
That's true.
we can move it later if we find other reasons to like
Yeah.
put anything else in Shack.
I would actually say it's probably it's easier to make use of the extra wood from the town center wagons for Portugal as it is for Malta, but you can also get plenty of TCs as Malta as well. There's nothing stopping you. In fact, they're pretty cheap for Malta, and so the max benefit for Malta is a lot higher when you take into account town centers.
When you get the cheaper town center card.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's actually really smart.
If you get 3 town centers with Malta, and then you get 10 commanderies by sending all 10 fucking order cards, I mean, that's 130 population right there. I mean, it's unreasonable to think that would happen in an average game.
So you're not as pressured to make the houses, except maybe early on. Yeah, I agree. I mean, over the course of the game, it would be you need a lot less pressure to build the houses.
One of my
a nation like Portugal.
One of my things that I actually like to do with my order unit build order is Malta is I go German immigrants and then right into British immigrants. So that I have two commandery wagons going out.
Yeah, I know a lot of multiplayers like to do that. I always say don't send the German immigrants too early, but
and the reason I like to send this early is because once you send Aubergs, then you suddenly have an extra 20 population in addition to all of the resource, and it helps you so much in the early game.
I love how there was so little to say about Portugal. We started talking about Malta again.
We're just talking about how Malta's better than Portugal. That's it.
Well, as long as we're moving to the central Mediterranean from Western Europe, why don't we talk about Italy?
Oh, that was a transition.
It's a transition. All right. So technically the Italian houses are free with the architect.
That's what I was going to bring up as well. How dare you destroy my talking points?
You can talk about other things about Italy.
Italy. They get architects, which are primarily going to be used for houses a lot of the time, I find. I actually made a video about like every civilization in a nutshell. I don't know if you ever watched that video, and my joke for Portugal is that the architect is like mostly used for housing.
Oh, you mean Italy? You said Portugal.
Oh yeah, careful. My bad. Portugal, Italy, same thing.
Yeah, and their build times can be decreased by the Basilica or the Freemasons, which are sent once in a while as Italy. I see Italy players building basilicas all the time. I occasionally see people sending Freemasons as well.
Now the houses
just do like a full architect build.
Don't exactly have any physical bonuses themselves, though. And as such, I am inclined to put them in the Shack tier, just above the Ottomans.
Ooh, even though they're free. Wow. Okay.
I mean, they are free, but they are not free in that they take up a lot of time from your architect that he could be using to build outposts or trade posts.
Time is a resource.
Time is a resource for Italy.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that.
And because it's not like Lakota's free, where Lakota's free doesn't require any time investment at all.
True. Lakota basically gets a 2,000 wood bonus from the beginning in that way.
Wow, look how balanced this tier list is, actually. I was not expecting this. I thought it would totally be weighted. Maybe it will turn out that way, but I'm pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about another unspectacular house to help get through them, so we can space out some of the greater talking points. Let's talk about Dutch.
Yeah, Dutch probably isn't too... they have stonemasons, gaslighting, and improved buildings like anyone, but the only thing with the Dutch is you aren't under as much pressure in the mid to late game to build houses because you hit your like settler limit pretty early because most of your economy is in banks
I
over the course of the game.
I would argue that the Dutch is the worst house so far. And
Really?
the reason is because banks cost 350 wood each.
Mm.
And you are going to struggle to afford both banks and houses in the early game. It's tough to house Dutch in the early game.
I think that's interesting.
What's your take?
I'd say they're in like cottage tier because I was thinking mid to late game, you're not under as much pressure to build those houses, and because your settler limit's only 50. Eventually, your military, if you get to
now.
that point in the late
I'm pretty
game,
sure it's 60 now.
well, it's 60 if you send both the cards. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure DE just raised Dutch's settler build limit to 60.
Oh, by default, you don't need to send the 2 bank discovery age cards anymore?
No.
Interesting. Okay, that's cool. Do those cards still increase the settler limit?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. Well, you seem pretty sure of yourself, so I'll let you decide where to place the shack then, and I'll research the bank thing later.
I mean, having less pressure on you in the late game, I don't think is the same kind of bonus as being able to save wood because you have a whole bunch of other buildings providing population for you.
All right.
It's just a normal house is what it is. Everybody has less pressure on them in the late
and
game.
It's a house that's taking away from your ability to do your main thing as Dutch.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. I'd probably, I don't know if I'd place it in shack tier, but yeah, okay.
Let's see here.
Well, but I know. I have a transition. Okay. But I know what does belong in shack tier. That ugly French house. It has nothing special going about it.
I would agree with that.
And if you send code Napoleon, it costs more.
That's I didn't think about that. That's very true. I mean, by then you're probably fully capped out your thing, anyways. Yeah. Let's
although you don't need as many.
Let's put it in shack tier. Let's put it above the Dutch though, because you don't have to buy banks.
I agree.
Okay, let's talk about an actually interesting house now. Something that actually has a little bit of substance for us to talk about.
I think we're on all the substance right now.
Yeah. How about the Longhouse?
I love this thing. I play a lot of Iroquois, and I love getting it for free. If you can get your fire pit up and running in age 3, 25 dancers, you pop out those travois as soon as possible, and you just splurge buildings all over the map. Longhouses, corrals, war huts, siege workshops, mills, plantations. You're just popping them out every 10 seconds. It's so fun.
I actually think I did a little bit of a self-research project where I was comparing the wood value and train time of how many settlers on the dance versus chopping. You're only actually gaining resource benefit when the building is over 250 wood.
Right.
Which means you are losing resources in villager seconds technically, but at the same time you don't have to build it. You don't have to
because the travois builds itself.
Yeah, the travois builds itself, and you're also not deforesting your entire area, which is a significant bonus.
Yeah, I think that I love this house is very good because of the travois dance, but not only that, you get more population per wood you put into it, because population, you get 15 population from a longhouse for only 12.5. That's more than one population per.
Right, it's 125 wood, right?
Yeah. So a normal house will have one population per every 10 wood, whereas this will have 1.25 population
something like that.
Woods. Point is, it gets you more population per wood.
It's more efficient.
And you can wall with it a little better. It's not as big as something like the Kancha house, but you can still kind of wall with these longhouses as well. They're pretty thick.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to put them other than the top of cottage.
Oh, come on now. They're at least bungalow.
Well, what's their big button? Do you know their big button?
Extra wood.
Ah, wood crates. Yeah, that's bungalow.
Yep. Can I convince you to put them above the African houses, though? They also have arsenal techs.
You can definitely convince me to put it above the Aztec house.
I know how to convince you to put them above the African houses. The war houses card gives them an attack as well. So they're
Is
like
that a
their own
commonly
little
sent
militias.
card, though?
It's uncommon, but it can basically turn them into tiny little towers.
What kind of attack do they have?
I'll look it up.
All right.
So I'm on the wiki now, and if I go to the longhouse, it has a range attack of 12.
Oh, that's nothing. That's basically a non-attack.
But it's a lot of hit points to take out a house. They'll be attacking many times.
Congratulations, your house has the attack of 4 sellers. Whoop-de-doo.
All right. But you can also boost. But think about it. It's a long, drawn out siege. You can also boost their hit points with the town dance. What about that?
I mean, there
Then
is
it
a thing
becomes
with
even
that,
harder to kill them.
but it can't train units. You know, this thing is 12 damage, 12 range damage. Well, guess what? These African houses are like 125 range damage just by making one batch of levied bowmen.
And those bowmen and spearmen are going to go down a lot more quickly than a longhouse. Over the course of a minute, who's going to do more damage? The spearman that dies in 3 hits, who's also draining your influence, or the longhouse, which you get for free?
I'd put him
above the African.
Personally, I would argue that the levied bowmen you're undervaluing the levied longbowmen here.
All right,
but there it is. You convinced me to bring it from the bottom of cottage to the middle of bungalow. Like,
all right.
You had a victory.
I am happy about that. Yeah. I am happy about that.
You had a victory here.
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay. Let's see here. Germany houses. I think this should be an interesting one.
I think so too.
Because the thing is, Germany is so funny because Germany has Uhlans with all their shipments, and they have they have a really good H2 military shipment with 8 crossbows and 2 Uhlans. It's insanely good value.
3 if you send logistician.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my lord.
Yeah. The problem with this bonus, though, is that you get housed so frequently with Germany, where like you need to always be making houses with Germany, unless you just don't want to. If you don't want to be just absolutely house fucked the whole time.
And the devs back in 2005 realized this, which is why they came up with the Palatine shipments card that literally just adds 20 population per house, so you can actually play as Germany.
I was about to transition into that, and you took it from me. Palatine settlements so hilariously solves Germany's issue that you never need to worry about it again, that your houses provide 30 population each. You can get to 200 population with only 7 houses. Or 6 houses and 2 town centers.
6 houses and 2 town centers, which is what I typically do.
I usually make the extra houses anyway, just so that when they get burned down, I'm not affected. Because if you don't build the extra houses, then you have the China problem.
Small thing, because Germany requires more experience to send shipments. Technically, these houses are giving you less of a percentage of shipment per house, I guess. But that's like really niche point.
Yeah,
I guess.
I guess what I was going to bring up is that I was literally about to mention that Germany shipments cost extra XP, but it was to say like Germany is a very tempo-focused civilization, and you're often not going to have room to send Palatine settlements comfortably in the early game when you really, really need it and have all those housing troubles. Because you're going to need those unit shipments to keep up the pressure. You're going to need that 700 coins so you can get up to the 3rd age, you know. And so it creates this issue where you have completely no housing issues after you send the card, and the worst housing issue of any civilization before you send the card. but there's no good time in the early game to send the card
True.
unless you want to give up tempo.
Yeah, and because the houses are always the thing that's like blocking Germany's tempo, it almost makes them annoying. I don't know. What do you think the tier should be ultimately?
In terms of annoyingness, they would be in shack tier. But at the same time, you can't really give a house that can give you 30 pop for 100 wood in the shack tier, you know.
I agree. What
I
do you think? Just under Malta?
Yeah, I can agree to just under Malta.
All right.
I would actually argue that it's under Portugal because Portugal has no housing issues in the early game because of their town center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good reasoning. I think we were talking about what the proper time to send Palatine settlements might be.
Yeah,
I would say
you play a little
maybe
bit more
while you're
Germany than
aging
I
up to
do.
Fortress Age. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
while you're aging up to Fortress Age is a pretty good time
yeah.
because I mean, you always want to get like the Fortress Age shipments. They're really good, but again, you want to solve that housing problem by the time you're in Fortress Age, so that once you start sending all your Fortress Age shipments, you aren't getting constantly population blocked.
Mm-hmm. You play more Germany than I do, so I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to take your word for that one. All right, let's see here. How about USA?
Yeah, can you think of anything USA has that's special about their houses?
They get
Because
British immigrants.
I noticed one really interesting thing. The USA is the only Europeanish style civilization which does not have improved buildings as a card you can send.
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
So technically,
realistically, that reduces maximum stats, but that's such like a late game shipment that so few
mhm.
people even include in their deck that like it doesn't affect the tiering for me.
And it is compensated by the US getting state constitutions as a tech. So in a way, you don't even have to waste a shipment card on that, although you don't get as much hit points. So, but you always have it available as
As
state
for
constitutions.
as for USA housing, how USA's housing situation in general, um, I generally find that I don't have too many issues with USA. However, there is a situation in which I can save a little bit of wood, and it's a bit of a weird one. But one of the things that I liked to do back when I was doing fast industrials with USA is I would get the Virginia tech, the one that gives you the state capital. I send the Virginia General Assembly card to get the state capital, and then I would save the free tech until age 4, and then grab the 100 population one at the state capital.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not the most efficient way to use it, but it is kind of fun to just be like, I have no houses, but I can afford 100 units.
And you seem to value that really highly.
I
So
do,
that's interesting. So
I do
does that?
value that, but it's at the same time it is a huge opportunity cost of you're not getting Oregon Trail, you don't get your fast age up and extra XP crates, and that's an
Mhm.
opportunity cost that isn't given to Lakota.
Right.
So it's not valued that highly. I was just mentioning it as a funny little possibility, like haha, you look at this thing you can do type of thing. They do get the British immigrants, which allows them to train settlers from their houses just like the British. It's an age 4 card, and importantly, if you choose to California Revolt, you can still make settlers from your houses.
Mm.
So you can revolt, and then if you have 4,000 wood on hand, you can have 40 villagers in like a minute, which is kind of crazy.
It sounds like a really cool thing. I never thought of that before.
Yeah, yeah. It's in my opinion like the one reason you would want to bring British immigrants is if you're doing the California Bear Flag Revolt, and otherwise there's like no situation where it's helpful.
Yeah, you see, I do terraced housing with some of my British revolts, but I don't really always think of America as a revolt civ, even though they do technically have the California revolt,
Yeah,
because
you wouldn't
I've
really
never really
think of
done
it.
the Cal.
There is the
'Cause
thing
I'm-
though, where most
yeah.
people, most USA players do age with California to age 4, so the revolt is always an option in the late game for them.
Yeah, usually most USA players are just focused on their Gatling guns, though.
That's true. I will say that I think because of the revolt synergy that USA has, I think they could go into cottage tier.
Yep.
Uh, and it's just based off of that British immigrant card with revolt synergy. It's at the bottom of cottage tier because it can't compete with Palatine settlements or extra population from these guys. But I think it should be noted.
There's two other things I noticed.
Okay.
So USA can send the advanced saloons, which, if you're doing a mercenary build, you won't need as much population space.
That's
because
true.
the advanced saloon provides 20 population.
That's true.
It can also send the Russian American company, which sends blockhouses, which also provide a little bit of population space in addition to their hunting speed.
The USA blockhouses don't provide population. That was actually nerfed out.
Really? Okay. Well, today I learned that.
Yeah.
See how much we're learning together? That's pretty cool.
They might have changed that back. I don't know. I haven't sent Russian America Company in like 6 months.
I haven't sent it recently.
Yeah.
Recently enough for me to notice whether I was getting population or not, at least.
But I do know that they used to give population when USA came out, and then a patch changed that.
I feel like they should give population.
I don't know if they get it back. I mean, they already get so much out of that shipment. They get, not only 2 blockhouses, but 35% gather speed or 30%.
Yeah, I love getting that gather speed. That's mostly what I'm getting it for. It's more than even the blockhouses.
Yeah.
That's nuts. I don't think there's any other card that increases gather speed of anything by that amount. That's massive.
Yeah, there is.
In one card.
Oh, yeah, there is, dude. Even better. There's one that's way better than Russian America Blockhouse. Aztec Mining.
Aztec Mining? Is that the 40% one? Yeah, I think I remember.
It's 40% gather rate and 20% yield and a coin cost flip for all your wood costing units.
Dude, I love that card.
It's so
good. I can't believe I forgot about it.
It's so good. It's like one of my favorite Aztec cards.
Me too.
Okay, let's see here. We're not talking about Aztec Mining in this build order.
But you know who else is in the general vicinity of the Aztecs and is a neighbor to the USA? Mexico. Let's talk about the Mexican house. That's a good transition, isn't it?
I'm actually not familiar with this one because Mexico has so many dumb fucking shipments that I don't even keep track of them.
You have no idea. When I was doing research on the Mexican house, the Mexican house has more going on than I think any other house in the game.
Really?
It's got stonemasons, gaslighting, and improved buildings like any other European-style house. But the big thing with the Mexican house that more Mexicans will use than anything else is the 7 houses tech at the cathedral. This tech gives you 1 insurgente per house for free. All you have to do is hit that button. It's almost like a levy, because you hit it and you get the insurgentes fairly quickly. I don't think you get them as quickly as a levy.
Do you need to send the advanced church card in order to get this tech?
No. This is a default tech at the Mexican cathedral.
Yeah.
That all Mexicans get.
I fucking knew Mexico would be like this. Mexico is so extra in that. Oh, you want to talk about special? I'm special. That's fucking Mexico.
In addition, they have an Inquisition-like tech that increases the line of sight of all their buildings.
I figured
which
you would
gives, I think, an extra. Yes, it's the Michoacan state card Colegio de San Nicolas, which gives an extra 8 building line of sight, so they can be wards. You can build them all over the place. I speak Spanish a little bit at an intermediate level.
Oh, holy shit! We forgot to mention some important stuff for USA. I can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're not too far gone yet. Why don't we just circle back to Mexico after you're done with that?
Yeah. Because you brought up line of sight increases, and it made me think about the USA mills. And then I was like, oh shit! USA has a ton of population cards for things other than houses.
Mm-hmm.
The advanced homesteading increases mills line of sight by 10 and then makes them provide population. And they can also make outposts and blockhouses provide population as well with Tennessee, which is the state that I actually like to age up with because of the Overmountain Settlers card. So it's if you choose to go with the Germantown farming start, then that's less housing that you need. That's 5 less houses that you need because you're gonna have 5 mills, so that you can spawn 5 German settler wagons. Yeah,
so there's a lot of things the USA can do that can alleviate their population woes.
I I'd say because of the variety that in like between advanced saloons, the mills, and the outposts, depending on what kind of strategy you're going for, I kind of want to put it above Journey. I think you're more
All right.
likely to send. I think you're more likely to have population alleviating benefits with your USA strategy than you are than the average Germany player is to send Palatine settlements effectively.
Here, okay, I agree with that. But you send the Palatine settlements card. All the problems are gone.
Yes, that's the
It
thing.
there is something to be said about just sending one card, and it's like I know the problem. I know what I need to do. Bam, hit the stop problem. But it's literally just a stop problem button. I love it for that. I love it for that.
I do too. Maybe we'll keep it here. Okay, you convinced.
But there's something to say about the USA's flexibility in dealing with the problem too. So I don't mind what order you keep them in.
I think they are so equal. I don't know which one to put favoritism for. I guess.
Well, that's why. Let's go back to Mexico and keep developing the list. Then, here's a very niche thing. Age 5 Puebla state cards makes buildings build faster, have more HP, and give coin as a build bounty. Technically, that counts as a house bonus, but by age 5, shouldn't you really have all your houses?
Yeah.
So that's probably not going to apply to much.
That's not going to much.
Querétaro age 2 card that's the one where haciendas provide 20 population, so you don't need as many houses. That could be a bonus. Then there's 7 laws, which give you 50% XP for everything that you build, so long as you've created one of each of Spain's unique units. Mexico's right. Sorry,
buildings,
I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe we'll do that one next. Then they also have Advanced Saloon, which gives another option to alleviate population. Then they also get Colonial Estancias, just like the Spanish do. We'll talk about them later, which gives 70 population TCs, so you don't even need to build houses. Although by the time you send this, you probably built a couple at least. So Mexico gets a lot of options for,
and then they can also just revolt and set their population at 200 like they're Lakota.
Oh, speaking of revolt, they can revolt and send the Russian American company if they're California.
That's true.
Although I don't know if Mexican blockhouses give the population.
They do not, because it's just Russian American company.
Right. Okay. Then the Alamo will make the houses spawn like militia when they're killed. So they're
not that anyone in their right mind would ever send that card, but
right. But there are technically a lot of bonuses that Mexico could have for their house.
And how many of them would you say actually matter? And would you be likely to come across at least one of these per game?
Every Mexico player should know the 7 houses tech, if only just to get 20 insurgentes very quickly so that they can throw them in front of their artillery or something.
I would agree. I think that puts them at least in line with Aztec and
people,
these guys up here.
People don't send the Michoacan state card that often because it's technically the naval card, but it's really useful because it spies on the enemy for a couple of seconds and increases all your line of sight permanently. So I think it's useful, but just uncommon to see.
Yeah.
Then the Querétaro, I think, is probably the most common, which gives haciendas 20 population space. Technically, you could just build nothing but haciendas as Mexico with this. 7 laws, very uncommon. Puebla, probably useless. Advanced Saloon, I think I've seen Mexico use outlaws a couple of times, but it's not very common. I've seen Mexico revolt to California a couple of times, but technically they don't send Russian American company that much, or the Alamo card. I don't know if any Mexicans have ever sent Colonial Estancias like the Spanish, though. You have a lot of options, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably put them somewhere in bungalow tier because of the amount of options they have.
Yeah, I'm for now. I think putting them between the Aztec house and the Longhouse is a good one right there.
All right, great. So we were talking about Colonial Estancias. Let's talk about the Spanish house. That was the one that was right. It's got the same home city card as Mexico, so why don't we transition there?
Okay, and take it away. You know more about this house than I do. This is not one of my prepared talking points. Is Spanish.
Yes, there are two things about the Spanish house you need to know. It has all the standard European things: stonemasons, gaslighting, improved buildings. If you send Colonial Estancias, you will never need to build more than like the three houses that you built to get over to Fortress fast. And I think that the Colonial Estancias actually can be very useful in a fast Fortress to Spanish gold strategy. So you go fast Fortress, you go Spanish gold, so that every single one of your shipments sends 350 coin. You send like a covered wagon shipment, and then you send Colonial Estancias, and you never need to build houses again.
Mm-hmm.
And also, technically, Colonial, your house as Spain, since Spain requires less experience to get a home city shipment, that house is going to give a bigger percentage of shipment experience than other houses will. So I think it's pretty useful. I'd put it just under like Aztec or above Malta.
Okay, I'll take your word for this because I don't know anything about the Spanish house.
Yep.
All right, let's talk about India
fairly
houses.
normal.
This is one I was prepared to talk about a little bit.
All right, take it away.
India houses. They are 80 wood. It's just 20% more efficient than a normal house. They are weaker though. They have less hit points. I think they only have 1200.
Yeah, they have less. I don't know how much it is exactly, but definitely less.
Yeah, I think they only have 1200, which means a lot of India players will just put all their houses in the back lines so that they can't be burned, and you kind of get what I call the Indian slum, you know, where you just
yeah,
you have your wood you have your wood choppers. And, you know, your wood choppers, you get so much wood as India, and these things are so cheap that you can just at any point be like, oh, I have housing issues, house, and then just you'd ignore it for a while. Because they're just so cheap, and it's so funny. But you end up getting the Indian slum, where it feels like because of how cheap and convenient they are, like, all of your houses are in the same spot, because you just have, like, one villager on one tree make 4 houses. And it creates the Indian slum, which is kind of funny, and it's going to be set up on like the back of your base somewhere, you know, because they do need to be kept safe. But like it's just a more it houses, but 20% more efficient. That's all it is. Now there is something to be said that your villagers also cost wood, but like India's whole economy is geared towards getting shit tons of wood, so I feel like that's like a non-issue, you know.
Technically, this house can cost 52 wood. Do you know how that can happen?
I'm assuming that there's a cheaper buildings tax somewhere. Oh, Portugal, duh.
And Portugal is a very common thing for
consulate.
Indian players to choose. Some players go France for the gather speed so they can get more wood. Some players go British because they just want a full rush, build the aggro fort, whatever.
Really,
but Portugal is also fairly common for Indian players to do as well.
I'm one of the biggest advocates for Indian consulate, and I've never gone Portugal with them.
Well, I think they're pretty good, but
like you do, you know, because you're not going to you're not going to make a consulate in H1 as India is the thing.
No.
And so there's no reason to get a fast rush aggro because there's no feasible way to do it quickly.
Right.
Which is one of the big issues with it. Like, yeah, I guess you could probably switch to Portugal right before you want to age up to get a little bit of a discount, but like, I don't really see Portugal as too highly valued of a consulate.
Well, the thing is, their button techs are not something that you want to get early, so usually it's a better idea to get other things. But while eventually you'll get Portugal for some of the cheaper buildings, you really do want to get them at some point, I think, because the age ups eventually become pretty expensive. And during that time, your houses will only be 68 wood. You can also send Mughal architecture, making their wood building costs 20% cheaper. And it's like the British card Virginia Company, which makes your houses cheaper, but it's for like all buildings. And it also, like stonemasons, it'll decrease the build speed of all your buildings. So it's like 2 cards in one, which is pretty cool.
Nobody ever put stonemasons in their decks.
Okay, fair enough. But I think there's something to be said that, you know, you can technically make this house cost 52 wood.
Mm-hmm. There is something to be said for it. I think just because of the convenience, it's at least above Germany.
I would put it just under the Aztecs personally.
Okay, I can agree to that.
Because here's the thing.
This was my
In
minimum.
whole, like,
This was my minimum
said,
placement. I was gonna try to talk it up after that, but I don't need to apparently. So
I always think that this is kind of mid tier because India's whole economy is based on getting wood. So usually, it's easier for India to get a house up than it is for like another civilization, and these things can become like really cheap if you're like a Portuguese ally.
They're so convenient. They really are.
Mm-hmm. I like them.
Even though there's more settlers per wood, it's more settlers per wood cost than even the longhouse.
Yeah,
you just don't get the big. Other... Yeah, you just don't get the tax.
Exactly.
And you don't need to send. The best part is you don't need to send any cards for them at all. They just exist as produced.
Although, if you wanted to send a card, you did like those levies for the African huts. Mm-hmm. There's a card that every building you lose sends you levy cards to your home city shipment point. So if you want to put the houses in front instead, well, they're already cheap, so you can just rebuild them like cheaply.
I never thought about that.
Militia.
I never thought about how to make that like super good because I was just like that seems kind of lame. But I suppose there could be.
It is a little lame.
I mean, lame as in like not really efficient. But I suppose there could be a strategy there if you wanted to create like a super funny like meme build order where you just spam houses in front of your opponent and then put put a forward shipment point somewhere on the front lines.
Here's my thought: forward Agrifort, right?
Yeah,
and then you just have your builder build your entire base around that Agrifort, and then you build like a 1,000,000 house wall around the Agrifort. The houses start getting destroyed, and the levies start spawning at your shipment point, which is at your Agrifort.
I actually want to make a build order for this now. You've given me
maybe you'll do a video.
Yeah, you've given me a great new video idea. Coming soon.
I can't wait to see it.
Coming soon to Age of not Age of Bison. What am I thinking? That's like my
Ulan Gaming.
Yeah, Ulan Gaming. Why did I?
Why don't we put the Indian house right where it belongs under the Aztec house for now, and then we'll do your little strategy, and we'll do our combined developed strategy, and we'll see if we can increase that at all.
By the way,
with this stupid little thing.
Ignore this. We couldn't figure out how to delete pictures.
No.
On this topic, let's talk about the Russian house.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead and do your little bit that you wanted to do.
Well, no, it's not a bit. Like, it's literally says house, and it provides population.
Blockhouses.
It's at least like partially a house.
Blockhouses do not count as
40% house. It's 40% house at least. All right, that's 5 population.
The theme around this is 1 entry per civilization. We even included Lakota's lack of houses.
Why can't it be more than 1? You have to do it. Let us know in the comments below if a blockhouse is a house, or what percent. Maybe it should be what percent of a blockhouse is a house.
The way I see it, if we've included, mills and commanderies into consideration when we talk about the USA and Malta houses, then there's no reason that we should also include there's no reason that we should separate the blockhouses in particular.
Of course we should. It has the word house in it.
My God.
It has the word house in it. The reason we don't include the USA mill is because it doesn't have the word house. You have to have house to be in the house tier list. It's the house tier list. All right. I'm done.
Well, you know what? Why isn't Hausa at the top of this tier list then? Because it's a whole civilization and it has the house in it.
You've convinced me. Put them at the top of Homestead. Hausa. Wonderful.
Hausa.
And you know the what's on the Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee flag? A house. Gotta put
also S tier.
S tier, easily.
You get a whole civilization for just 1 house.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about Russia. I see Russia as being like here.
I agree. Are you thinking of their difficulty in managing their population early game, especially when you have to build like Strelet hordes and stuff?
That's exactly what I'm thinking of, but also combining it with the added benefit that blockhouses do provide population.
Yeah, all right. I mean, with that added benefit, I would put them like around the Spanish.
Yeah, because if they didn't have the blockhouse benefit, I would definitely put them below Germany. But they do. Because they suffer from the same problem as Germany. Well, just in a different format because they train strelets in batches of 10 instead of getting extra Ulans with every shipment.
Right.
But because they do have blockhouses, it makes it at least a little bit more convenient before you send Palatine settlements. And if you choose to go logistician, then that's even less of an issue.
Yeah, because you get the extra population space in your blockhouse.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's my opinion there, because it's got in a way the blockhouses provide a similar bonus to Portugal, but Portugal doesn't have housing issues like Russia does in the early game. So that's my opinion there.
But the Russians also just got a small bonus. They can now be housed all the way up to 210 population. Recent buff.
Oh, yay, we need more houses. Whoop-de-fucking-do.
Okay. Fine. Maybe not so much of a bonus.
That's not fair. I think, isn't there a population cap? Wasn't it raised to 210, right? Not 220 like China?
Yes, 210.
Yeah. All right, so we only have two left: the shrine and the torp. Yeah. On one hand, I'm not really sure which of these I would rank more. On one hand, the torp has higher gather rates than the shrine, and you can gather multiple resources at once, right? And it's to the point where, like, you know, your town center gets destroyed as Sweden and you've lost half your settlers, you still have a hilariously large economy, and you can still just kind of cockroach around the map, and it works because of how effective the torps are, where to the point where if your opponent doesn't kill the torps, you will come back if you have any kind of support from an ally, right? On the other hand, they do run out of resources after a while. And the shrines do not. I feel like the shrines are more skippable, you know? You don't necessarily have to go around the map burning down shrines in order to kill a Japan player. You do need to go around and burn down torps to kill a Sweden player, it feels like. If that makes sense.
I agree. But man, I don't see any reason to put these guys short of S tier. The Torp is an absolutely fantastic building. Man, it just sucks up the resources from whatever it's put next to. It's basically its own kind of villager. It just can't move. Yeah. You
know? Would you say it's better than Lakota's not benefit of not? I'd say it's better than Lakota's not having to build any houses.
It might be above the British.
It's a toss up for sure. They're pretty close to each other, I think. I think these two are the two
you did say, like,
houses,
you know, they can run out of resources eventually, but you can kind of send more. The Blackberry shipment, what used to be only be able to be sent twice, it can be sent infinite times now. And you can also send a tree to all your torps as well, you know?
Absolutely.
And I find having one or two of those cards in your deck is just very useful.
I would say the shrine is probably, like, the bottom of the S tier houses, personally. Like, the shrine is good, don't get me wrong, and it kicks ass. I would rather have Lakota's benefit and just have better, and just be able to hunt and just be able to hunt instead.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, they got nerfed a little bit recently too, so villagers can blow them up now, right?
Yeah, same with torps.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. This is the only house that can be built by your explorer, and your explorers, they gain benefit from exploring and laming the enemy's hunts.
Which
is super annoying, dude.
That's true.
There's not really any other way you can lame hunts except by wasting one of your villagers' time running around shooting all the animals around your opponent's base.
I think that's worth mentioning and putting above the Lakota. Then I can.
Yeah, and they can be, like, made cheaper, and their gather rates can be boosted, and they technically don't even need to be around animals to gather the resources. And I think they're better in the late game than the torps, unless you send, like, the torp cards. But I mean, you send shrine cards too, so I would put the torp above the shrines right now after the recent shrine nerfs. But I mean, Shrine, honestly, Shrine used to be top of S tier, used to be the best house in the game. I'd say it's a little bit under the Torp now.
I think I'm personally going to put the Torp at the top, even above the British one, and it's just because of the fact that your Torps can carry your economy even if you've lost your base and half your population.
Yeah. And while the resilience of getting like 20 bonus villagers is really cool, so like, you know, you can lose like 5 villagers in a raid and you'll still have like a better economy than your opponent. The fact is the Torp is harder to take down. You can't take it down like you can take a villager down. It's just kind of stuck there, sucking up resources until you can get either explosives or some pikemen on it. You know?
All right, so looking at our total tier list, our homestead is pretty empty, but are there any houses that you think deserve to be in equivalent space to Kancha houses and villages?
I thought the longhouse, but I also think the blockhouse should be in there. But I know how you feel about blockhouses.
It's not a blockhouse tier list; it's a house tier list.
Yeah, I think the longhouse belongs up there personally. But you know, I
okay, I'll do it. Why not? You're joining me for the tier list. You have a say as well.
It's the war. I love that war hut card. People don't use it, but I do. You should try building like a really defensive Haudenosaunee deck sometime, and then spamming Travois throughout the map. It's so fun. Although that's beyond the scope of just a house, but
yeah,
I do like those longhouses. I do like them a lot.
God, this India build order that we have in mind is so stupid. Like the more I think,
I can't wait for it. I can't wait. I kind of want to do it now.
You're paying wood for units that you don't get until the enemy decides to burn down your house.
Yeah, dude, this is gonna be really good.
It's gonna be bad. It's a terrible build.
Have you ever seen like? Have you ever seen like literally like the human shield? Oh, what was it? There's like a meme of like a guy who wore babies as armor in like a comic. It's like you just attach houses to yourself, and it's like if you destroy me, I'll only become more powerful. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you get the? Here's a question: do you get the levied units if you delete your house?
That's a good question. I don't know.
We'll have to test that out. Either way, I think this will do it for today, gentles and ladymen. This was a really fun tier list. Happy April Fools. You know,
happy April Fools.
Do you have any last words or any changes that you want to make?
All houses matter. Free the blockhouse.
God. All right. Have a great day, everybody, and goodbye.
Still my heart beats again and again. I'm always searching for love with no sense within my head.